Hello, this is Carla again with Concrete Gardens Homestead, and tonight we're going to plant some onion seeds. Now, it's been a long day at work, got home, and that's why it's dark outside now, but it's January here in southwest Missouri, so it gets dark a little too early, but we've got a lot to get done. I promised myself this year that I wasn't going to start things late, that I was going to be on time. I've made a list with dates and everything, but I didn't know about onion seeds. So I had no idea that they had to be planted like 12 weeks early. So I am about 2 weeks late probably, but we're going to go for it anyway. We have a long summer until frost, so we should be okay. This year I'm planting onion seeds. Last year I planted onion sets, and they didn't do very good. And so I'm lucky. Across the street I have a master gardener. Our neighbor across the street is a master gardener, has a greenhouse in his backyard, the whole bit. So I really enjoy talking to him. I've learned a few things from him, and I learned about onions. There's short day onions, intermediate day onions, and long day onions. And then they're also biennial, meaning they take 2 years to grow. So when you buy sets, the farmers have pulled those out of the ground at a stage where they're still small, and they send them in and, to stores, nurseries, whatever. And you buy those and you plant those. A lot of times they think already that they're in their second year, and so that they should just turn to seed, when really you want them to think that they're in their first year and you want them to make a bulb, but that doesn't always happen. It certainly didn't happen for me last year. So I'm going to try onion seeds this year. And I should have planted these, like I said, about 2 weeks ago, but we're just going to go for it. Now, in my tub here, I have my homemade seed starting mix, and I have a full video on that and how I make this mix. There's no soil in this mix, and I also mix it with very hot boiling water. I want to kill any type of fungus gnat, eggs, or anything that might be in the peat moss before I start these, because I'm keeping these in the house under grow lights with heat mats, and they'll be in here. This is kind of the sunroom here is our office. This is where we also work and do our day jobs. So I don't want a bunch of gnats, fungus gnats flying around. So anyway, but I'm going to link the video of how to make this seed starting mix. But this is just peat moss, vermiculite, and perlite. Now, there are some big pieces that you have to pick out, but again, the cost savings is really great. I forgot to show you here, but I've drilled some holes in the bottom of these trays, and we're just going to plant these onions in these trays. And then there's no holes in this tray. This is going to have the dirt and the onions, and then they're going to sit like this, and you water from beneath after the initial time, and then the water wicks up through those holes. So I'm filling the tray here with dirt. Now, I was talking to my neighbor across the street, Ray, and found out that what I need to be growing here in Missouri is either the long day onions or the intermediate day. Now, the long day onions, they need 14 hours of sunlight, 14 to 16 hours of sunlight in the summer for them to signal to the onion to make a bulb. So that's key. They're for zone 6 and above, zone 6 and north, and we are zone 6B. Now, short day is for the southern United States. That's zone 7 and warmer. They only need 10 to 12 hours of sunlight to signal their onion to start making bulb. So the intermediate day, it doesn't require a certain number of hours of sunlight, and so they're also really good for the central United States. So Ray gave me some candy onions, and these are intermediate, day neutral onion seeds, and I'm going to plant those. And then these I got at Baker Creek. We have a yellow of Parma, which is an Italian onion. And then we have the yellow sweet Spanish, which is a really good long day onion. Both of these are long day. And this one is really geared toward beginners, which I consider myself a beginner. So I went ahead and got this packet. But hopefully these work out and they grow. So the plan is to have a bunch of little onion sets in March to plant out in the garden, in the raised beds. And hopefully we can grow some nice big bulb onions. So here's the tray of dirt. Now, I already read on the back of the onion packets from Baker Creek, and it says to plant them about 1/4 inch deep. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm just going to fill in the top with dirt, basically. So I've left at least 1/4 of an inch here just to make this easy. And this mix is really airy, really loose mix. So it's very, very good for seed starting. So it's not compacted at all. Now I'm just going to plant this whole packet. And these seeds are just little bitty, teeny tiny black seeds. They look just like this one in this bag, if you can see that. But let's see, I don't even know how many are supposed to be in here. And of course, without my glasses on, I can't read that. So we won't even bother looking at that. But I'm just going to sprinkle these in because when I go to plant them in the ground in March, they'll probably be about 8 to 10 inches tall, and I'll thin them out then. But we're just going to sprinkle these in. You get the idea here. I may not use all of these. I don't want to waste them. I could always get some more trays tomorrow and plant a second pan in case something happens. I think I'll probably do that because this is a lot of seeds and I have really filled in the pan really good. So I am going to put these back in. I probably planted about 1/2 of a pack here. So I'm going to put these back in. Hopefully, maybe. There we go. Notice I'm holding these over the pan just in case I drop a couple, they'll hit dirt. There went one. All right, most of those got back in the packet. I need to stop on the way home from work tomorrow and buy 2 more aluminum pans. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to fill in the top here. You can scrunch these up a little bit, get them down in there. Just use your fingers. It's always good to get your fingers in the dirt anyway. It's really good for the brain, especially in the wintertime. It releases serotonin and it makes you happier. So if you get a chance to touch the dirt, touch the dirt. But I'm just kind of putting those in there, and then I'm just going to put a little bit on top. I'm taking the bottom pan here with me. Yep, that's a solid pan. All right, I'm just sprinkling some dirt. In fact, I'm going to use my hand for this, just sprinkling some dirt on top. You don't want to get too much. The big pieces of wood and stuff just take out. There's really not that much. All right. And that's about 1/4 inch. Just making sure I get all of them covered. Once they're on there, you can't really see them, or at least I can't. All right. And that is a pan of onions. Now, of course, if you like this video, we ask you to please hit the like button, share it with your friends, subscribe as well, and we'll be sharing this with everyone we can on how to start onions. So I'm just going to water this from the top the first time, trying to get that soil just all good from the top. Now after this, I'm going to water it from the bottom. And I use filtered water out of my refrigerator because I'm just not sure about what chlorine may do to the seeds when they're starting. I don't want to stunt them or anything. Now after they get bigger, I do use the water from the faucet. But I even put a filter last year on my garden hose, like what people use on RVs. They're not really expensive, but just trying to filter out as much as I can of the chlorine. But that is filtered water. I usually do this a day or two before, and I just let it sit in here in the sunroom. So that's it's room temperature. It's not cold right out of the refrigerator. And now they're all set, and I'm just going to put them up here. I've already turned on my heat pad, my heat mat. You want the grow lights to be just 2 to 3 inches above. I just have these small heat mats. I got them last year. I want to say they're around $20, $25 for 2. And I got 2 sets, and hopefully they'll last for many, many years. The grow lights are one of the more inexpensive brands that you can buy, and they did just fine last year. I had the most beautiful plants in here, and so I'm looking forward to using them again this year. Now, my husband, left brain, would not approve of this engineering, but this is just paper clips so that when as these onions start to grow, I can raise these up. And that's just something I came up with on my own. If I'd have told him about it, he would have had to have drawn blueprints and printed out 11 by 17 sheets of blueprints, and we would have had to have probably put chain together. I don't even know everything we would have had to have done. So I just grabbed a box of paper clips and did that without mentioning anything to left brain. But that is our set of onions there, our pan of onions. And I'm going to do the very same thing with this pan with the other pack. And then I'm going to get 2 more pans and plant the rest of these onions and some candy onions as well. Candy onions are the ones that are the day neutral, and I'm anxious to try those this year. So anyway, that's it. Remember to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Hello, Carla here again with Concrete Gardens Homestead. And coming to you tonight, I just want to show you what our onion seedlings have done. You've been watching how to plant the onion seeds, and we've learned a lot about onion seeds. And so I just wanted to show you we're about 2 weeks from that last video that you were just watching. And these are the yellow Spanish onions that we planted that evening. They're doing really, really nice. They're about 3 inches tall now, just in 2 weeks. These germinated in about a week. Same with the yellow of Parma onions. These are an Italian bulb onion, and they're doing really well. They were also planted at the same time as the yellow Spanish. Now these candy onions, these are the onions that my neighbor across the street gave me. These are the intermediate day onions that you should be planting if you're living in the middle of the country, which we are here in Missouri. And so I planted these almost 1 week to the day after I planted these 2 pans. And you can see they are behind. They just germinated this week. They're maybe 2 days up from the soil, maybe 3, but they're real little. They're really thin. They're about 1 inch tall, but they're doing well, and most all of them germinated, which I'm happy about. So what I'm going to do now is just show you how you're going to take care of these onions going forward. You're going to have them inside for quite a bit of time, and then we're going to transplant them in the garden around the end of March, first part of April here in Missouri. They're a cold tolerant plant. They're cold hardy. They're frost hardy, I should say. So we can get these in the ground before the last frost. Now the last frost date, according to the old Farmer's Almanac in Missouri in Zone 6B, is about April 20th. And that varies, obviously. That's just an average. But I think it is going to be an early spring. I've been seeing a lot of dead skunks on the road the last week. And according to my brother, that means we're going to have warm weather in an early spring. So we'll see if he's right. But anyway, we're going to try to get these out in the garden, in the raised beds, around the end of March. That's the goal. And hopefully they'll be a lot taller than they are now. So what I use to feed all of my seedlings with, no matter what it is, tomatoes, onions, squash, lettuce, it doesn't matter. I love this Neptune's Harvest. This is the tomato and veg formula. They also have a rose and flowering formula. But I like both of them. I use both of them. But for my seedlings, I really like this. So what you do for seedlings when you're just getting them first started is you've got to really dilute this down. So this, the nitrogen, the NPK on this, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the potassium, it's a 2-4-2. So the 2 is the nitrogen, and the 4 is the phosphorus, which is what you really want right now for some root development, and then a 2 for potassium. And that's a really good fertilizer for right now. This is a liquid fertilizer. Now it says that it's 1/8 of a cup for a gallon. Now that's for out in the garden for, mature plants. When you're talking about seedlings, you've got to really dilute that down. So I only use half of that. So I only use half of 1/8 of a cup, which is, you got to shake it. Let me shake it up here. But actually, I'm just going to really dilute it down because I don't want to damage these seedlings in any way. So I'm going to look and see about for what 2 tablespoons does for me here. That should be about 1/2 of a cup. I'll probably spill this all over my planting table here. Nope, got it right in there. There's 1 tablespoon. And there is 2 tablespoons. Now this is basically a fish emulsion type fertilizer. It doesn't smell the best, so you don't want it to be sitting around too long in your gallon jug. Now this is filtered water. For seedlings, I use filtered water. Just let it come to room temperature. You could use your tap water, just let it sit out for 24 hours at least. 48 hours would probably be better, and let that chlorine evaporate off of it. I just don't want a lot of chlorine on these plants, on these seedlings. I don't think it would be very good for them. So what I'm going to do, remember how I poked holes, drilled holes in the bottom of each of these? So now you just pour this in the bottom of your tray. And a little goes a long way here. You don't want to leave these sitting in this water. Now this is just going to kind of float, and you're just going to leave it. You're not even going to push it down. It'll do its own thing at its own pace. Now if you've done too much water and you come back in 15-20 minutes and there's still water in these pans in the bottom, at that point you're going to want to dump that water out. You can either use a funnel and put it back in your jug, or you can just dump it out. You don't want these sitting in water for more than really 15 or 20 minutes. Now these really aren't even far enough along yet to have fertilized water. These are 2 weeks old. These are only a week old. So for these, they're a little bit dry on the top. So I am just going to put just plain water in the bottom of this and bottom here, just to let these onions get a little bit of a drink too, but no fertilizer for them yet. They're still just a little bit too young. And we'll just let that wick up at its own pace. So that's really how you take care of them. Now these onions are going to need to be watered probably at least once a week. And really on the fertilizer, it just really kind of depends on how they do. I probably would only fertilize them once every 2 weeks. So every other week I would use something like this and fertilize them. The off week I would just water them with plain water and let them sit for 15-20 minutes. I'm just going to check this one real quick. It's only been a couple of minutes, but oh yeah, they're gonna soak that up, and probably want just a little bit more. You can kind of tell by the top of the pan how dark it is and how moist it is. You just don't want to get them over moist. Now onions are heavy feeders, so you really do have to fertilize these along the way until you can get them out in the ground. And you may even want to fertilize them more than that once every 2 weeks. I may have to look into that just to double check. Most seedlings you just want to do every 2 weeks, but onions are heavy feeders. So anyway, I just wanted to show you where we are just 2 weeks later, and I'll keep you posted on these onions. Eventually I'll show you how to transplant these out in your garden, and these are going to grow into big bulb onions. Now I do have some bunching onions that we're going to use for green onions, like in salads and things like that. But that's a different type of onion, and they can be planted later. These bulbing onions need to be planted 10 to 12 weeks before you put them out in the garden. All right? So we'll check in again with you here in a couple of weeks and see how these onions are going. In the meantime, we're going to be starting some more seeds, and I'm going to walk you through all of that and show you what we do to start everything from tomatoes to squash to lettuce and everything that we're going to do. We're going to be planting some green stalks. So lots of good things. So please subscribe to our channel, turn on your notifications, like our video if you learned something or if you enjoyed the video tonight, and also comment. We'll interact, and if you're growing onions from seeds or have in the past, please let me know how they did. All right, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.